mind being the guinea pig at all.
Hola Elevation Nation. We are coming to you tonight with a fantastic guest. Someone who is every single day pushing themselves outside of their comfort zone, living their best life, and helping others live theirs through his job at Bucket Listers. He's a dear friend of both Parker and myself, currently coming to you from San Miguel, Mexico. The one and only Sam Levin. Welcome to the Elevation Nation podcast. We are so excited to have you join us tonight.
Hey guys, it's a pleasure to join you as well. Great to be on the show. It's a long time coming, but like we had said before, we wanted to wait until I was really immersed in this, couple months in. Today's day 54 of my trip to San Miguel. Been keeping a pretty intense journal, so I know the day, but really excited to be on here and break down, reflect a little bit on the beginning of this journey, the first quarter of my journey in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. Yeah.
Sam, it's good to see you again. It's been a minute, and it's great to see you through the camera. Unfortunately, couldn't see you in person and do this in person, but we're pumped. We're going to get into it. We're going to explain why you're down in Mexico. We're going to talk about how it's going, all the people and cool things you've come across, and the things that you've learned. But more importantly, we're going to talk about a topic today which I certainly think you know very, very well, and that is the topic of mindfulness. But before we get into that, it's the Elevation Nation podcast, and maybe our guests, maybe Elevation Nation doesn't know who you are. So we're going to kick it off with an elevator pitch. Sam Levin, let's hear it.
Nice. Nice. Hi, guys. My name is Sam Levin. From Chicago, lived in New York the last 2 years. I'm down in San Miguel de Allende on what you would call a personal growth journey. You may say that. I would say from a pitch standpoint, if I am trying to sell myself, I would let you know that really hungry for growth, trying to find new things every day to learn, keep my brain fresh, to find new ways to enjoy life, but also to find my favorite things in life and make sure that I'm enjoying them as well. This journey's been great. It's been super reflective, but I've been on a path, a trajectory that has made a lot of sense to me, although, I think it's to each his own. And for me personally, this is something that I'm continuing to learn more and more about myself. So my pitch is that continue to learn and yeah.
And so, Sam, I mentioned in your intro that you're helping other people live some of their best and most amazing days. So can you tell us a little bit about your job and what you do to help people really find amazing, unique, and cool events to make memories?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the great things about my job is that it feels super integrated with my life right now. Working for Bucket Listers, we partner with events and hotels, restaurants, bars, activities, the best things to do in each city. You can say the bucket list worthy things to do in each city. And we're here to basically share experiences. Our motto is bring out the explorer in everyone. We want people to go out and live their best lives in their cities or travel to one of our markets and continue to find really new and amazing things. And at the same time, supporting some of the small businesses, some of those local partners that we have in each of those cities, Chicago, LA, New York, and there's plenty more. It's really great. It's a startup atmosphere, and we feel that we try to live our mission. Everyone at Bucket Listers is cooler than the next. They're traveling across the world. They're doing things on their bucket list constantly. And it's something that we preach. So we try to live, what we are selling as well.
So was it on your bucket list growing up, or maybe it was just a recent, to move to another country? I know you went abroad and you lived in Europe, but that feels like a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
You're with a lot of people that you know, as well as you're in a program, through a university, and you got people watching your back, even though you don't think it is that way. So where did that idea, this bucket list idea for you to travel to a new country and fully do it on your own come from?
Yeah, it's really simple. Number one on my bucket list was to be fluent in Spanish. There wasn't much more to it, and I wasn't getting it done in New York. I love New York. I think anyone who knows me knows I didn't move out of New York because I didn't love it. But I wanted to be fluent in Spanish from a bucket lister standpoint, from a job, a professional standpoint. I think being fluent in another language opens up many doors in terms of connecting with business partners, with more people. And so being fluent in Spanish, having some family from Mexico, my uncle married a woman from Tijuana, and I have family from Mexico. They're actually visiting me next week. Very excited about that. It's super important that I'm able to speak fluently with them, to, take part in a conversation. And then once I pinpointed that, once I was like, I want to be fluent in Spanish, it was, well, where can I immerse myself? What's the best way to become fluent in Spanish? It's immersion. At that point, I looked at time zones, and Mexico is in the central time zone. I worked the Chicago marketplace. I started to narrow it down more and more. My uncle, who I mentioned, married my aunts 20 years ago. They came to San Miguel de Allende. It's this beautiful, charming city in central Mexico, about 3 hours away from Mexico City. And when he broke it down to me and introduced it to me, maybe it took me an hour or two of research to be like, this is it. This is the spot. I don't need a car. It seems very quaint. It seems like there's gardens and yoga and beautiful restaurants and a really open environment to meet people with tons of expats. And it's central. It's somewhere where you can travel to other places. So from a home-based perspective, this looked like the best place. And then you do research into the universities here, and there's a fantastic university called Instituto Allende where I'm studying. I just got back from class right before this call. And that's kind of the spiel. Number one was to learn Spanish, and then it was, where can I do that? And San Miguel, really luckily for me, was a clear option, and has turned out to be just a very, very fortunate stroke of luck. But, as we always say, you make your own luck as well. So, yeah.
And Sam, I think Parker and I are so proud of you for going out on, I know for you, this was kind of a normal path that you wanted to take, but for a lot of people, it's uncomfortable, and it's going out on a limb, and it's taking a risk, and you are embracing it and living in the moment and truly becoming one with San Miguel. And I think that has a lot to do with, one, your attitude, which I think can be also attributed to your mindset and being present and being mindful in the moment. And I know you have a passion for mindfulness. You have a few different business ideas. You're coaching mindfulness on the side. Let's talk about mindfulness. Can you give us a dumbed down definition of what mindfulness means to you?
Yeah, sure. So, I think I can kind of answer the question of, when I first came to San Miguel, some of it was I ignored those nerves. And then once I came and started using the language, I actually embraced those nerves. So a lot of mindfulness is, controlling what you can control and letting the things that you can't control not throw you off, be something that you embrace, something that you can learn from. Being mindful, of course, people say it's being present, but for me, what it is, squeezing everything that you enjoy out of life and the things that you also don't enjoy. It's just this whole idea of being very centered and being super balanced. I use this word symmetry a lot because I like to view a painting of it. Symmetry in terms of your mind is super important as well. A short and dumbed down version, it's tough to do with mindfulness because there's so many aspects to it. There's so many things that you can apply mindfulness to, whether it is running a marathon or it's studying for an exam or learning a new language. It's really, heavy, and at the same time, it's very balanced. For me, it's something where I lived in New York. It's really fast paced in New York. I live in San Miguel. It's really slow paced here, but I can go both speeds. I can travel to a Mexico City and immediately snap back to a New York speed. And a lot of that is just being mindful. It's being super aware. And if you've ever done a mindfulness session with me, I use the word, we're being really communicative. We're really thinking through mind, body, and spirit, how we're feeling, and we're not ignoring anything. We're taking it all in and processing, filtering it out.
We are living in a world right now that is, I'm going to use the word unprecedented. We've heard that word many, many times. The last 22 months have been so crazy for so many all across the world. Millions and millions of people are working from home and becoming more disconnected and lacking that communication with other people. So from your perspective, why mindfulness? Why is it such an important thing for people, especially young people, to gravitate towards? You hear it as a buzzword. It's a popular thing. You got those apps like totally. Headspace and Calm, and you read about it and you hear about it, but hearing and seeing it and reading about it is one thing, but actually practicing it and living it every day is a whole nother thing.
Yeah. I think that when I teach it, often at the end of the class, I say, we just did a 45-minute mindfulness session. Congratulate yourself for showing up. It's often the hardest part. Doing 45 minutes a day is not something that everyone can do. And it's really tough for people who have never done mindfulness to jump right in or to even understand necessarily what we're talking about. The tools that I try to teach, or the ideas that I try to teach, are, maybe you practice for 45 minutes, but you can use those skills. You can put that in your toolbox and you can do something. You can do mindfulness for 2 seconds the next day. You can do mindfulness for 5 minutes. You can find your own form of mindfulness. It can be going outside on a walk and just going a little slower and just processing things around you. It is a really common buzzword. It's something that now that I teach it, there's so many different forms of mindfulness, and it's really tough to differentiate yourself unless people try it, unless people actually see what you're teaching and how you're teaching. I teach more of a body scan. It's very physical. It's very connected with your body and mind. So you're actually touching your foot or your leg, and you are appreciating your health, especially when you have it. You're feeling your heartbeat. There's some breathing aspects to it, but I've done other mindfulness, and I'm not good at other mindfulness all the time. If it's just breath work, sometimes it's really hard to calm down and to find that breath. There's so many different forms, so people should just, really try. But in terms of how important it is, and like we said, with the unprecedented times, I found mindfulness to be something that is separate from the lesson, separate from what I'm teaching. Mindfulness has now become something that, like what I said, it's in my toolbox. I use it 24/7. It is when I wake up, and the first thing I do is I look at my phone. Well, I actually can physically put my phone down and say, let's start the day off a little differently. Or it's helped me to, wake up earlier or go to bed earlier, just to think through my day and not be super hard on myself, but at the same time still be critical. It's all about balance for me. And mindfulness has been something that allows me to take a step back, analyze how I am processing, whether it's, in the moment or it's through the day. Sam, you joined a mindfulness session on a Monday night. I think it's super important. It's the first day. You've finished your first day of work. How did you do? Are you really groggy? Are you moving into your week pretty slowly? Well, mindfulness is the time to say, I had a pretty okay day of work. How can I adjust and get better? I have time to actually reflect and pause. So much of mindfulness is this, people use the word pause and to stop and to reflect. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to pause. And you can tell yourself, I want to pause. And 10 seconds later, you're back thinking, 100 million thoughts. So to physically pause and sit and give yourself time. The quote that I always use is, what a gift it is to give a moment to yourself. And it's huge for me to give a moment where you can actually process thoughts. And a moment sounds pretty quick, but to give yourself many moments to actually think through things. It's
crazy to think about that we all are living beings. Our brains are working. There are thoughts happening every second of every day that we're not sleeping. Even when we're sleeping, we're thinking. But it's crazy to think that we have to define a term, one, and then a practice, two, to bring yourself back to yourself. And I think it's so interesting. And it's something that Sam uses in his life. I've used in my life to overcome challenges, some anxiety, some, things like that. Or just like when things are good, it always brings you back. It level sets you. And that's the beauty of it.
And let's talk about...
I just wrote down quickly that it's not natural in our environments anymore to pause, to reflect. We live in a really fast pace. So, maybe a long time ago, people were more mindful and spiritual or cultural, whatever. In today's world, in the rat race that people are in, especially in the professional rat race, it's really hard to find yourself. I mean, part of the reason why you guys started this was to break down what techniques you guys can use to actually, enter a workforce with confidence and to find yourself as well as work. It's not just professional. It's that work-life balance that we're all chasing. And so when those environments aren't natural, well, you need to build those skills back up. And that's really what mindfulness can do for you.
And let's talk for a second on why young males in our 20s really need this concept of mindfulness. Why is it important for us to be mindful and in the moment, right? As we're all young 20-something young males, right? And we go every single day 1,000 miles per hour. We're probably not as in touch with our emotions and our well-being as we should be. And we're young and immature probably compared to where we will be in the next 10, 20, 30 years. Why is mindfulness and living in the present moment so important for this demographic?
It's so funny.
Yeah, it's huge.
Jump into. It's like our parents. Whenever I tell my mom I'm meditating or I'm taking time, my parents, older people, and I'm generalizing here. They don't understand the idea of I feel like there's just such a resurgence of mindfulness, and young people in particular. From from what I've seen is like you said, Sam, things are moving at millions miles an hour, right? All the time, we're always trying to do the next thing. But at the end of the day, life is a long, 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 long game. We all think it's going to instant gratification. We want this. Now, what's the next thing? We want this. What's the next thing? When in reality, I think younger people are finding that mindfulness is the thing that says, okay, wait, this is the tool, the medicine to help me not feel like it's just always a go, go, go.
Well, the patterns that we're seeing in terms of the workforce, they definitely parallel with COVID, but for me, mindfulness didn't happen because of COVID. I was always pretty spiritual. In college, I was always kind of in sync with that. I wasn't teaching mindfulness by any means, but I do think in this day and age, there's a lot more opportunity for people to think about what they want and actually see it as something that's obtainable. And for me, it was learning Spanish, but it was also finding a work-life balance that fit that, finding a company that really supported that mission for me. And it's one of many. We'll get into it more and more, but San Miguel is not an end-all be-all. I don't plan on living in San Miguel, moving back to New York, and then that's it. I plan on...
you may find a significant other there. You may find that you find a local bakery that you just enjoy so much, and you feel like, you know what? I'm going to work for them. Next thing you know, you ended up owning it. You can't come home.
Parker's really thought through what you're going to do next, Levin. Wow.
Well, you never know.
The bread is fresh, for sure.
We're living day by day now. We're not writing any script here.
Yeah, I mean, I had someone the other night ask me, where I would put money down in the next place I would live, and I said, what a silly, what a silly pathway of thought that even is. Like, I am just living very much in the moment. I plan things out. But you know, what I don't want to do is start to pigeonhole myself, tie myself to a lease right now. I'm really free flowing it. When my classes end at Instituto de Allende, I'm going to have opportunities to travel to Mexico City, travel to Oaxaca, do a West Coast trip, really allow myself to, you know, see a little bit more of the world and map it out with work where I can still do that and still be really effective with my job. I think I've actually been able to work harder and learn more during my time in San Miguel because I am very focused. I'm also alone for the most part. So, you know, I'll have really spontaneous nights where I'll meet people at a cafe and I'll go out with them for dinner late at night. But for the most part, I mean, I'm in self-reflection mode, like 24/7. When my brother came and visited me, it's very different because, you know, I want to show him the city that I've come to love so much. And I'm on his schedule a little bit more. I want to show him all these places. He wants a really good bakery, if you want to say the bakery again, and things like that. And I did feel this, oh my God, I'm not on my own schedule anymore. And for so long, for the first time really in my life, I was on my own schedule. I woke up when I wanted to. I worked out when I wanted to. I worked when I wanted to because I could work during dinner and I could pause during the midday to go on a run because it's 75 degrees out and it's freaking gorgeous outside. I feel like going on a run. I've gotten my work done today. I can go on a run. And it's really been interesting just to feel that balance. You know, there's pros and cons with everything. I got a lot of energy from being with my brother and my friend Phil when they came here. It was really refreshing to be with people that knew me and that were excited for me, had seen my growth at the same time. I cherish alone time. I think it's super important. I say this quote, you know, a lot to myself now, and it's, you're doing this solo, but you're not alone. I brought it up to Sam the other night, to Panitch, and it's just a really important quote to me because I am alone out here, and for some people that's really scary, but I'm so far from being alone at the same time. I have family and friends that I talk to all the time. I have the new people that I've met, people that I consider almost family now. And so I really think that there's just such a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. I don't feel lonely here. I feel really, really, really cared for. I feel like the city is a giant hammock that I can just swing from the whole day. And like I said, go at different speeds. There is a nightlife here. There is really fun restaurants and rooftops, and you can choose to do them or not. But all of a sudden, you know, I don't feel that pressure to go out on a Friday night. It's really refreshing to pick and choose when I want to go at those speeds.
How do you handle those moments when it's not as clear to see that, when it's a little bit more difficult because you may feel a little bit more alone than other times? You may are struggling to bring yourself back to, you know, the present. You know, maybe you had a struggle at work. Walk us through like a time where it was actually a struggle for you.
Yeah, I really am super glad you asked that question. For me, it is, you know, going outside's the simple answer, but for me, it's getting lost. I really feel comfortable when I'm lost, which is funny. You know, I'll go on a run and I'll try to find an area that I've never ran to, and I find a new restaurant or I find a new garden or I find a pathway where I'm like, this kind of looks sketchy. I'm still going to do it because it looks fun as well, and you just learn more about yourself that way. For me, running is a huge outlet. I think exercise is great, but for running, it's so much less about the exercise for me, and for me, it's about seeing the city. When I run through San Miguel and it's, you know, the sunset or the sunrise or one of those times is really when I like to run, and I'm seeing people and I'm seeing, you know, a mariachi band singing, or I'm seeing fireworks because there's just fireworks 24/7 in San Miguel. You know, I'm running past a beautiful church or architecture. For me, being outside and seeing things and all the vibrant colors, regardless of how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling alone or lonely or whatever it is, going outside and understanding, you know, reflecting, being mindful of the journey that I'm on, the path that I'm trying to go down. I like the word trajectory because I like to think that my trajectory is going up. And I like to think of, even if there's a little plateau in there, if the overall chart is going up, that's really amazing. That's incredible progress. So I don't get down. I don't get too down on myself when I have a really rough day of work. I'll pop up to the roof that in the house that I live at, or I'll go to a new restaurant that I've been, have mapped out that I wanted to go to. And it's super refreshing. I get really rejuvenated by being outside, by nature, by finding a new spot, and keeping things fresh in my brain. Segueing that into like keeping things fresh. Like I'm learning Spanish every day. Like I'm feeling real growth. Like I can see that I'm speaking faster. I can see that I'm understanding more words and that I can hang in a conversation now with someone that is Mexican, that is speaking Spanish. And I feel growth on a lot of different levels. It's super similar to, when you're training for a marathon and your speeds are getting better, or you can run longer distances. It's the same thing, but this is mental. And when you feel it mentally, it's really like the word is like wow for me, because when I feel it, I'm just kind of I'm kind of like blown away, because this is something that I've wanted for a while, and to feel growth.
Levin, I'm curious to your thoughts, bringing this full circle and I guess a little bit back to mindfulness and living in the present moment. Parker, did Levin just drop off for you?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. You're good.
Cool.
You're good.
Sweet.
Sorry, you just dropped off for me, Levin. Are you back? You're back? You're good?
All right, go ahead.
Sorry, you just dropped off for me, Levin. Are you back? You're back. You're good? Okay.
I think I'm back and good.
So, Levin, I want to bring us back to the concept of... So, Levin, I want to bring us back to the concept of...
Yeah, it should be fine.
So, Levin, I want to bring us back to this concept of mindfulness and why it's so important to live in the present moment. And I think for a lot of young people out there struggling right now, it's because a lot of the days seem really, really similar. You wake up, you do your morning routine that you're so proud of working out and drinking your glass of water and doing whatever, and then you have your work day and it looks fairly similar. There's no interesting guy on your commute or crazy experience that you have on the subway or worker that you're meeting with for a delicious lunch. It's a lot of the same old every single day. And that can be depressing for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. How can mindfulness and living in the moment help you be more appreciative of the here and now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super heavy set question, right? Everyone handles it differently. I think that for me, what I've learned, and Parker, you might be able to speak on this too with running a marathon, it's having something on the schedule that you're working towards. It could be a race, it could be training for a marathon, learning a new language. Something along those lines has been really big for me is what am I improving at, and evaluating how good I'm doing at, steadily improving at it. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's accountability. And when you're running a marathon, it's you have those amounts that you need to run each week. And if you miss them, you're going to drop off, or the marathon itself is going to be very, very difficult, or you're not going to get the time. But one thing about a marathon is that you run it and it's done. For you, it's like, and for everyone, it's life. It's like, how do you hold yourself accountable? When there's a ton of things that you could do to hold yourself accountable. That's the challenge.
It's actually funny, Levin, that you said that and you talked about accountability, because that's not where I thought you were going to go. I thought, and something that I'm working on doing myself, is appreciating the little things you had us do this on your mindfulness session the other day, Levin, that I loved, which was you said, look around your room and find an object or an item that you just like pass by every day. And I think everyone's doing that now because we're working and living in the same damn room every single day. And so we take a lot of things for granted, right? And you said, look at that item and think about the story and the meaning and the impact behind that one specific item, right? And so, for example, I have one thing on my desk. I'm holding it up to Elevation Nation. It is a little picture frame that says the essence of leadership and a quote under it. And this was given to me by a high school teacher that was really impactful to me. And I've carried it with me now my whole life. And to be perfectly honest, I see it every single day. It sits next to my computer. I haven't thought about that in 2 years, 3 years, right?
So true.
And it's like,
wow.
Okay, we have all this monotony in our day. We have all this repetition in our day to help us make decisions easier. But that sometimes makes the day boring and makes you maybe less grateful than you should be to wake up and have a breath and be healthy and have a job and be living. So take a second and think about some of those simple things that you take for granted and try to be appreciative of those and be mindful, not in the moment of time, but be mindful in the value of some of the simple things we take for granted around us.
Levin, I got another question for you right off that. Oh, sorry. Sure. Go ahead.
I'm just really glad that Panitch, pulled that away from the mindfulness session. It's the way I end those. One of them is because, mindfulness is really about community, and I like to have people go off mute and share what they found and saw, and the stories are really awesome. It's, a photo of their grandmother that they just walk by every day. It's a sweatshirt that their brother gave them, and it's a hand-me-down, and it's really special to you. These things are little things that, don't necessarily need to have a lot of meaning, but when you put meaning on it, all of a sudden your life has a little bit more, maybe you guys can help me with the word, but a little bit more, maybe appreciation, understanding that everything is something that can be cherished. Like you can find something in everything that is worth cherishing.
So where I was going with that is we've been talking a lot about the idea of thought and being mindful in thought. What about mindfulness in touch or or hearing, using other senses? Is that even a possibility, Sam?
Yeah, it's huge. Mindfulness is so much about non-judgment and being kind to yourself and loving yourself. So there's definitely parts when, we go back to the session that I teach, you're having a little bit more of playfulness. At one point, you can pull your ears apart, blow up your cheeks with some air, and you can feel like a monkey or a kid again. Sometimes I used to do that when I was a kid, or you curl yourself up in a ball and you really feel the warmth and hugging yourself or patting yourself on the back. That's huge. But if you ever do mindfulness in nature, and we were in the mountains in San Miguel recently, and the lady that led our hike, she taught mindfulness, and I laid down and I had a bunch of grass that was kind of bothering me, touching my arm, and I just decided to kind of embrace it and be like, this isn't something that should bother me. I'm really connected with the earth right now. And I flipped my hands over so that my palms are touching the ground, and I really connected. And it's something that I had to process. It's something I had to tell my body to do. Like, let's connect. Let's put more effort into connecting here. Mindfulness is definitely all five senses. I mean, you can do aroma mindfulness. Really important is, food mindfulness is great. Mindful eating. When you eat, a great story is if you eat a turkey sandwich every day for work or lunch or peanut butter and jelly, and then one day you eat it mindfully, you take your time, you're not on your phone when you do it. My cousin has done this before, and she said it was the best turkey sandwich of her life. So you eat something that maybe has
the same one
every day. And she just realized that she was a lawyer, and she is still a practicing lawyer, but she actually goes around and teaches law firms mindfulness. These people are very burnt out. They're working nonstop, and she goes to these corporate law firms teaching mindfulness now, teaching mindful eating, teaching you how to, maybe you're working 9 to 6. Well, within that, there's still a lot of things to enjoy. Just because you're working 9 to 6 and then you're leaving work doesn't mean that from 9 to 6 you couldn't have a good day. Like, you could have a really good day of work, and it shouldn't be tied to success in that work day. It should just be like the people you're with, the fact that you have an amazing job, the city that you work in, the food that you eat, whether it's a PB&J or it's a new restaurant down the street. Mindfulness is so much about, like I said, finding something that you can cherish in everything. And so all the senses, you know, you can really, I love the sense of touch. I really like that idea. Whether it's touching your body like we do in my session, or it's touching the earth or a basketball, right? Like, I love that feeling of closing my eyes and feeling a basketball in the grooves. I mean, we can go down a path of anything. Like it's really, really, really powerful. But everything you do with mindfulness should be about slowing down, because it's hard to just, you know, grab the grooves and then shoot and be like, oh, that was so mindful. Like, you want to feel it. You want to really take it in. And so, you know, I sometimes write down in big all caps, slow down. And it helps me a ton just to even see those words.
So, Levin, I think we all know the importance now of mindfulness. I think for those people that haven't tried mindfulness, hopefully listening to Levin and Parker and myself talk about some of the benefits that it has kind of broken that stigma in your mind of, oh, mindfulness isn't for me, or, you know, being introspective, or it's difficult. So I have a challenge for Elevation Nation and for you, Levin. Hopefully you can help lead us on this. Let's do a 1-minute mindfulness exercise led by you, 1 or 2 minutes, just a quick one, and see if people can take a minute. If you're driving, don't stop. Don't close your eyes and do what Levin says while you're driving. Pull over. If you're in a safe place where you can actually take a minute or two for yourself and try this exercise, fantastic. If not, come back to this part of the podcast. Parker and I do not want to get sued for any accidents that may happen. So make sure you're in a safe place where you can take a minute or two for yourself and let Sam Levin lead us on a quick mindfulness exercise.
Awesome. Really fantastic. Can you guys hear me okay?
You're good. We're ready for your mindfulness 101, Sammy. Let's do it, buddy.
Great. Excellent. We'll start, and with many things in mindfulness, we like to have our eyes closed. Oftentimes, we like to, include physical touch to really loosen up the body and loosen up the mind. Mindfulness doesn't always have to be something in the mind, but for this exercise, that's exactly where I would like you guys to be. Your third eye, and you can feel free to bringing your pointer finger to that third eye, that space in between your two eyes, really center of your forehead. And just picturing a red dot, like a blinking control center. And inside is this mini version of you. You can be set up with an office space, beautiful, whatever you'd like, a beautiful room, a beautiful office space. This area is called your higher self. And what we'll do is we'll leave that office space. Go ahead and have some imagination here as you can let your hands down to your side and just poof, like have a little angel on your shoulder, a miniature version of you, and allow that miniature version of you just to float up, looking above you now. For Sam and Parker and for everyone listening, picture what that angel of yourself, that higher self, is viewing, where you're sitting, what's supporting your seating, and the area around you. Maybe it's a desk in front of you, a bed to your side. Allowing your body just to float up a little bit more to the ceiling and through the ceiling, now overlooking your entire room. A little bit further, looking over your entire house or apartment, wherever you are, take it in. If it's a small shoebox in New York, really just appreciate the building, the structure, maybe the architecture. As we float up even further to picture the entire block, the street we live on. Maybe it's your favorite restaurant or coffee spot. Feel free to picture maybe a neighbor walking his or her dog. Take in maybe a bench or a tree, things that are familiar to you. Continue to rise up, overlooking now your entire community. Maybe it is a restaurant a couple blocks away that you really love, or a park for sure, definitely a dog park you can think of. Continuing to expand upward, no longer just viewing the community, but now viewing the entire state. People are now dots. You're seeing more structures, buildings, lights from the city. As you zoom up even further, now looking over your entire continent. Buildings fade and you're mostly seeing blue, green, and white. Blue from the bodies of water, green from maybe the forest or the trees, and white from the clouds as you're now within the clouds, floating up, continuing to rise until you are in outer space. It's nighttime now, so it should be easier to picture looking around and seeing tons and tons of stars. And one direction is the moon as well. Up here, looking down at the shape of the earth, I'd like you to think of anything that may have stressed you out today. Looking down, that thing looks really, really small. It might be something that was a problem for 10 minutes and is now gone, and it might be something you still have to face tomorrow. Regardless, it is really, really small in the big scheme of everything. In outer space, in the world, it is really small. At this moment, I'd like you to think of any breathing that you've done today and just measure it up as you begin to take your biggest and deepest breath of the entire day. In 3, 2, and 1. On that exhale, your higher self changes positions, and you can imagine it almost like Superman starting to come down back towards Earth, leaving the atmosphere, entering the clouds, coming back to viewing your continent and the shape of that, into the state, into your community, starting to see people and familiar faces, familiar restaurants, familiar street corners, and coming in even more to your street corner, to the block that you are building your life at, inside to your apartment buildings, the things that you hold closest to you, your greatest treasures, and back into your room, viewing you sitting hopefully very still, picturing where you are, and getting ready. We're going to take a short, deep breath here as we re-enter the higher self back into the mind. And go ahead, and in a moment, we'll open our eyes, go ahead and look around the room, find something that maybe you've glossed over before, something that is a flower, maybe in the corner, or a picture frame of you and your family. Or maybe it is something as simple as your window, and you're looking out your window and you've noticed a plant or something on the street. Go ahead and open your eyes and go ahead and look around the room. Take it in. And like I like to end all these sessions, in a moment, you guys can say, "It is done."
It is done.
Well done, Sammy. I really, really enjoyed that. It's such an interesting practice. Everyone has their own walkthroughs.
Sure.
Everyone has their way of going about it. And it's just like so nice to just take a moment to close your eyes and be aware and not sleeping with your eyes closed, but just like taking a step back and just, I mean, the way you spun that up is like realizing you could have a big problem in the day, but really how big is it? It's pretty small in the grand scheme of things, you know?
I'd like to say 2 points. One is just, the closing your eyes. When people close their eyes, they often associate it with, going to sleep. Closing your eyes and mindfulness is a really easy way to re-energize yourself. It's translucent meditation. A lot of people do it if it's familiar to people. And it's just a recharge of the body. It's closing your eyes. It's actually just giving your eyes a rest, but not your body. Your mind is very alert and focused. And the other thing is, everyone teaches differently. That's improv for me. Every time I teach, it's different. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's really effective. Going into it with no judgment and going into it with, really no forcefulness either, just allowing it to be and to be as it is and to feel the effects as they come and not having any preconceived notion of what it is. That's really openness and mindfulness and its definition.
Love it. I feel like when I really get into a great meditative or just like state, like I feel like I have like grasp on like my head or something. I can't, and like my brain is just, I can feel the recharge almost. Like I can feel something happening. It's weird. I can't explain it, but and it feels good. It's like, I can't explain it, Levin, but like there's something that happens when you're really in that great, deep meditative state where it's like, whoa, I feel this right now.
Yeah, the number one skill or the number one benefit of mindfulness for me has been setting an intention during it and then actually being able to execute after. I'm a huge procrastinator. I'm also someone that gets sidetracked very easily with mindfulness, especially during these sessions when I teach. Oftentimes, I already know what I want to do next. I want to read a book. I want to go straight to bed. I want to work out if I'm doing mindfulness in the morning. The next thing that I do, I have that same amount of focus and attention to detail and walking through it in a calm, cool, and collected way as I did in that mindfulness session. Mindfulness for me is a huge momentum builder, whether it's in long term, like building it into my month, or it's short term, just, what am I doing next? What am I doing after this phone call? That for me gives me a little bit of a body high. It makes me feel like I am really crushing that day or that night and, executing really well in terms of what I need to do to make sure that my health is really good and that my, performance at work is really good and all of those factors that make us feel good. So what you're feeling is, I would like to say it's a body high, but it doesn't always come. But similar to like, when you finish a really good run, you're a runner, so you feel very accomplished. You feel like you slowed down and you've changed your pace up. And it's something that I don't think you can necessarily put a word on because it's definitely to each their own. But it is something very positive. It is something that brings a lot of light and a lot of joy and is something that you continue to grow as you get better at mindfulness, as you use mindfulness more and more during your days, for sure.
It's
well
amazing,
said, my friend.
Thank you for being our mindfulness coach here at Elevation Nation, Sam. I think a lot of people really benefit from just taking a minute for themselves. We sometimes forget that we are the main characters in our lives, and if we don't take care of ourselves, no one else is going to for us. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us about your story, about mindfulness. And I want to end with a new question for you around mindfulness and the topic of this episode. And we hinted at it before, but I'd like you to boil it down into one main point here, which is, why is mindfulness something, I'll re-ask that just so it doesn't have that weird audio. Why does mindfulness matter to 20-something-year-olds? I'm trying to think how to ask this, Parker. I was trying to do something like new. I don't know. What do you think?
Why does mindfulness matter to young adults in their 20s?
Thank you.
Wow.
Why does mindfulness
what a great question.
matter to young adults in their 20s?
Yeah, I think it's because if you have a positive outlook on life, we have so much more to grow and so much more to do. I mean, if we're in our 20s, that means that we're not necessarily sure who our, partner for life is in terms of who we're going to marry. We're not sure where our careers are going to be. There's still a lot of different ways to pivot. So with mindfulness, what I don't want to do is I don't want to get to 30 and be like, what did I just do these last 10 years? With mindfulness, it puts me in control. I'm the captain. I'm the one steering my ship into whatever direction I want to go to. And I can be as aggressive in terms of chasing my goals as I want because I'm really locked in and communicating with what my goals are. I mean, the timing of this podcast is great. New Year's Day is coming up. You have New Year's resolutions. It's a great way to trick your mind to say, what do I want to accomplish this year? When I think of that, when I think of New Year's resolutions and I start to map out what I'm writing down, I start right away because it's like, why would I delay my goals? And a lot of it was, coming back to Spanish in San Miguel, I knew I wanted to be fluent in Spanish. I knew it's something I wanted to pursue, and it wasn't something I wanted to wait until I was 30 to pursue. It's something that I registered. I want it now. I'm going to go get it now. So mindfulness, or, why does it matter? It's because you're in charge. And sometimes people don't realize. They feel like they're, a puppet and they're being pushed by jobs and they're in this rat race, or they feel like, they're tied to how much money they have. You always have an opportunity to change your narrative, and mindfulness sometimes just gives you a little bit more confidence to do so.
That's the elevator pitch for mindfulness after you gave your elevator pitch for yourself. We love it. So, Sam, this has been a wonderful conversation. It's obviously been amazing to catch up here, how great things are going for you down in Mexico, as well as hearing how mindfulness has played a role in your life and how you think it has improved the lives of many others. So we do have some hard-hitting questions, some rapid-fire questions for you. Cool. We're going to just spit them out, get through them, and we're going to wrap up. But I guess to start, what is one thing you didn't know about the country of Mexico that you do know now, and what is it that you love about the country of Mexico that you didn't even know existed?
Cool. I think the drinking culture is awesome here. I learned quickly that you don't take shots of tequila here because it's almost disrespectful to how much effort, tequila and mezcal, how much effort has gone into the making of that. It's something that you really cherish. So people drink it during lunch, people drink it during dinner, but it's something you sip. It's something that you take in. It's something that you're actually very mindful of. It's very funny how that happened. And people drink to drink. And if they get drunk, they get drunk, but there's not I'm going to go out and get hammered tonight type of mentality. You really let things flow. I would say that's something I love. Something I didn't know. Right before I moved to Mexico, I watched the movie Coco with my sisters. I timed it up where Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, would be pretty much day 7 or 8. And the spirit that they have for people who have passed, it's such a celebration. And a lot of Mexican culture is just a celebration of, giving thanks to being alive each day and giving thanks to the people that have inspired us and helped shape us, even if they have passed. So I love that. I think it's amazing. It's really a great way to think about.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, now it is for me too. Yeah,
it's one of the best. It's one of the best.
Sam, what is your favorite song to listen to right now, walking around San Miguel and exploring the beautiful city?
In class, one of the things about my class is the answer is Sabor a Mi. It's by Edie Gourmet and Los Panchos. Of course, it's a Spanish song, but that's a great way to learn. And my classes are one-on-one, so I have the flexibility where I can bring in a song, I could bring in a poem, I can bring in a letter in English that I want to write to my grandma, and we can translate it into Spanish. So I have a lot of flexibility with how I want to learn Spanish. I could bring in a topic of interest. We had a class the other day talking about mindfulness. I learned tons of words in Spanish that have to do with mindfulness, and I had a lot more passion in that lesson because those words are something that I'm very passionate about. So the answer is Sabor a Mi. It's by Edie Gourmet and Los Panchos, and it's very beautiful. It's like a mariachi ballad type of deal.
Love it. All right, I got one question left.
Sure.
And it's going to be a rapid fire, but it's going to be a deep question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your purpose in life, Sam? And let's keep this short. But what is your purpose?
Sure.
See if you can keep it short.
Yeah, I like the quote, there is no endpoint to growth. And I also like the quote, revel in your evolution. Both of them are just talking about consistently growing, consistently getting better. And so my purpose is to never be content with there's always a language to learn. There's always an instrument to learn. There's always more people to meet and learn their stories. That's my purpose, is just to continue to take in information and take it in with a full heart and an open mind.
That's beautiful. Sam Levin,
Thanks.
a mindfulness master, so to speak. Thank you on behalf of Elevation Nation for sharing your story, sharing your insight, and sharing your perspective on life. It inspired me, but more importantly, it grounded me into the present moment and being appreciative of the little things and making sure that I stay mindful. So thank you so much for opening up to Parker and myself and all of Elevation Nation. This is beautiful.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me a platform. And like you guys said, this allowed me to reflect as well. So huge thank you for you guys and great job leading this.
The pleasure was all ours. And Elevation Nation, until next week, peace.